Greetings, Guardians, my name is Byfear. Well, this is a video I wasn't planning on doing in the schedule, but here we are, and it's a big one. Yeah, grab some popcorn, ladies and gents, this is going to be a rather large video. So, back near the first few weeks of Witch Queen, there was an ARG that r/raid secrets and the typical crowd of secret hunters in Destiny were working to unlock. At the time being, it led to the continuation of the lore that Ikora Rey left us in the Hidden Notes. These are things that you could grab with the Witch Queen Collector's Edition. It was a pretty large chunk of lore, and at the time, I was really busy covering the lore surrounding the raid, so I wasn't immediately able to cover it. Now that's changed. Raid lore is something we've all but finished covering, and Bungie has released the full transcript of the ARG's lore as a lore entry on Bungie.net. This is a lot of lore, and we're only going to cover a part of it today, but it's a part that I think is totally fascinating because of what it talks about. It talks about truth to power, breaking the fourth wall, Savathûn's potential greater plans, and so much more. And it's even more intriguing because it starts as a conversation between Arach Shalal, the leader of Dead Orbit, and Ikora Rey. Yes, that is the exiled Arach Shalal. This conversation between Ikora and Shalal is fascinating for a few reasons. Firstly, Ikora doesn't immediately cut off communications with the traitor in this conversation, or attempt to pry him for intelligence about his whereabouts. A diplomatic decision perhaps, but an interesting one nonetheless. This leaves us in an interesting place as far as speculating how the factions might consider their relations with the Lost City in the future, and in particular, their relations with the Vanguard. I wonder how this is going to go as time progresses. In these communications, Jalal has reached out inquiring about the nature of a set of manuscripts that we long ago discovered back in Forsaken. They are the infamous pages of Truth to Power. If you've not heard of this lore book, well, I'm sure there's a video somewhere back on my channel. I'd say go ahead and look up 999 Power Shattered Throne, and I think one of my videos on that will come up very soon and it will give you the basics. This conversation reveals Ikora's thoughts on the matter, and perhaps informs us a little more on a whole lot of other topics. The entry here discusses the Ahamkara, the nature of the universe, how Savathûn was potentially working to escape our universe, or ours in the Destiny sense, and ascend into, well, our universe in the physical sense. And furthermore, it breaks the fourth wall as a result. It ties into some of the most interesting lore that we've ever had in Destiny. And so I think it's well worth reading all of this stuff in full. So be warned, yes, this is going to be a very long reading, and I'm going to give a little context at the end, but most of this should be stuff you can follow along with. I am working this into the schedule at last minute, so do not expect the deepest of analysis as per usual, but I'm sure that most of you will be able to follow along. However, if you can't, go ahead and look up what's going on in Truth to Power, and I recommend going ahead and actually reading Truth to Power, because it's a very interesting lore book, and it goes through a very interesting set of circumstances which all turn out to be lies. It's well worth reading just for the sake of trying to get a glimpse into how deception with the Hive can truly work, but if you've read that, it will give you the full context that you need. Failing that, again, go ahead and at least take a look at the videos that I've made on Truth to Power. Anyway, the entry begins as follows. Arach Shalal to Ikora Rey. Alright, I give up. We may have quit the tower, but I still need your help. For 3 years, we've had our best analysts working on the documents slipped to a Guardian via the Queen's Court, the so-called Truth to Power manuscripts. All we've got to show for it are burnt fingers and bad arguments. I appeal to the Hidden for help. Here's what I believe we can know with confidence. The author of all these documents is Savathûn. The documents are an extension of Savathûn's strategy in the Dreaming City. They are cyclic, deceptive, and fond of the "you did exactly as I planned" mantra. There is no encrypted content. Any solvable encryption scheme would be discovered by the mass scrutiny of ghosts. Therefore, encrypted information is little different from plain text, so there is no purpose to adding solvably encrypted information. Any unsolvable encryption scheme would remain unsolved and is thus equally purposeless. Therefore, the true message of the documents can be obtained simply by reading the text. The true message concerns A. the importance of singularities in Savathun's personal cosmology, and/or B. instructions on how to mantle Savathun. We've had ships sweeping the edge of the system for orbiting singularities, but we don't know the mass of the distributary or Exodus-Green's outward vector at the time the distributary formed. We don't even know if the distributary singularity inherited the Exodus-Green's vector, leaving it on an escape trajectory into interstellar space, or if it emerged at rest with respect to the Sun, meaning it would fall directly towards the Sun and pass through it over and over. Add to the gravitational influence of the planets and it could be anywhere by now. We're looking for a microscopic point in a volume larger than the solar system. We thought about using fleets of sensor mites to search for gravitational influence, but then we realized the Nine are in competition with us to find the singularity, and they would certainly use their phantom mass to interfere. Unless it's been in front of us all along, right in the sky of the dreaming city. Could they have found some way to harness the singularity? To park it where they can guard it? If so, we must obtain this capability. Have you found anything we missed? Okay, so I said I wouldn't give much context, but this first entry from Arak Shalal to Ikora Rey talks about the Exodus-Green and the distributary. Those are all tied to Awoken lore. Basically, the Exodus-Green was the ship which bore the Awoken to their new homeland. Originally, they weren't Awoken, they were human. They had an interaction between light and darkness. A singularity formed. They fell into that singularity. A singularity, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is a black hole. When they fell into that black hole, it didn't crush them and kill them. Instead, they woke anew as the Awoken, and they called their new home within the black hole, a universe unto itself, the Distributary. The Distributary and its true location are unknown at this moment in time, but it has been a common thread for the Hive and the Dreaming City to search for the Distributary. So, you got all that? I hope you do. Anyway, here's the replies. Ikora Rey to Arak Shalal. The Truth to Power documents are Dulin Karu's plea for her mother's love. She wrote a biography of her mother, an attempt at understanding, in the hopes that Savathun would also understand her. Imagine how lonely it would be to live in the High Coven, where everything, all communication, is deception. Imagine if your mother had never once told you the truth about anything. Arak Shalal to Ikora Rey. This is sarcasm. I'm asking you in good faith for your help. Ikora Rey to Arak Shalal. And I'm trying in good faith to lead you to the truth. The Truth to Power manuscripts are pluripotent. There are many ways to read them. Arak Shalal to Ikora Rey. That sounds like an excuse for a failure to discover the true meaning. Ikora Rey to Arak Shalal. You have it all backwards. You're trying to shuffle the puzzle pieces around until you get an image. You need to know the image before you can arrange the pieces. Think about logic. Here we define logic as the governing principle by which a power defines its own existence. For example, the Hive practice sword logic. What is the governing logic of Truth to Power? Arak Shalal to Ikora Rey. Being nonsense, being convoluted, being misunderstood. Ikora Rey to Arak Shalal. Very well then, study Truth to Power with an eye for how it means to be misunderstood. Arak Shalal to Ikora Rey. O Ascended Master, tell me how are we to obtain actionable intelligence from the way the documents are meant to be misunderstood? Ikora Rey to Arak Shalal. Your centuries of defeatism have left you with a bad case of learned helplessness. The documents are full of possible misunderstandings. One misunderstanding is that they are pointless, just complexity for the sake of confusion. The threads about Imbaru and power from confusion point this way. This is the stance that most amateur Guardian analysts seem to have settled on. It's all a lot of nothing and there's nothing to understand in it. This is plainly foolish. The text is full of useful intelligence, including an excellent explanation of the anthem Anatheme and an apparently accurate description of how Riven preyed on Guardians to create the curse. Another easy misunderstanding is that the pages are concerned with a real humdinger of a scheme, a manipulation of Hive tribute that requires Savathun's entry into the distributory. This could be true. The scheme could very well exist, but if so, why would Savathun advise us of such a scheme? Another easy misunderstanding is that these are love letters. Think before you laugh. These letters carefully establish a sense of shared physicality. The Eris voice asks you to center yourself in your breath and your body. It asks you to imagine her as a judoka, a swimmer, a football player. This is subtle work, Arak. It is the work of an alien who has taken on many forms and learned how to win trust in all of them. The letters plead with us for compassion. Not Eris describes herself as shy, pitiful, forlorn, afraid to share her true feelings for us. Not Medusa pleads for help as she disintegrates. At the center, we find the clearest profession of love. Thank you, sweet friend. You are a gift and a delight. You are more dear than my mother, for you have given birth to me 1,000 times. Superficially, this is a reference to the concept of Imbaru, Savathun's plan to predicate her existence upon the misunderstandings of others. We give birth to her by feeding her power. But she also says, here at the center, I lie to you the truth. You have everything you need to know it, but I give you a clue, as the duelist gives warning before she draws. The answer you seek to the dreaming city is simple, not complex. So let's not misunderstand this statement about giving birth to her. Let's take this at face value. We have given birth to Savathun. She genuinely loves us for it. Okay, so that last bit is complex, and we will get into that in just a moment, I promise. The next reply from Arak Shalal literally asks about this exact question. But for context, again, little details from Truth to Power. Truth to Power starts as a series of letters from Eris, and then goes and it's revealed that no, it's not Eris, it's a program, an AI called Medusa that was masquerading as Eris. And then it turns out that Medusa was simply a program that was a subroutine in Quria, and then it turns out that Quria is in fact manipulated by Dulinkaru, who is of course speaking on behalf of Savathun. Then, of course, things go in reverse. We get back to the point at which we have a little insight from Dulinkaru, then back to the point at which we have insight from Quria, then back to the point at which we have insight from Medusa, and finally the letter ends with Eris trying to invoke us into this sense of, well, yeah, I know I lied to you, but trust me, it was me all along. You see why people tend to overlook this lore book? It's really complicated. Beyond all of this, it should be noted that it seems quite clear that none of these actors are actually the real characters that they're speaking on behalf of, except for maybe Dulinkaru or Savathun, and even that is suspect. The character of Eris is described by Ikora as not Eris, because when you ask real Eris, and they did in the lore, she never recalls having had these conversations or having sent these messages. They are fakes, they are phonies, they are literal attempts at manifesting into someone's messages and to try and copy a personality. It's something that the Ghost easily sees through in the text logs, but still, it's not to say that it wasn't attempted. So, yeah, complicated stuff, but that hopefully explains a little bit of what you may have questions about. Moving on, Arak Shalal has more about the idea of we have given birth to Savathun. And really quickly, I want to remind you all that this is not the most literal interpretation you could have. We are giving birth to her in the sense of power, perhaps. Ikora has a little more to explain to Shalal, and it gives us a little more insight. Take a listen to the continuation. Arak Shalal to Ikora Rey. Are you implying that we created Savathun by imagining her? That her presence in the Books of Sorrow, and all the things she's done throughout more than 1 billion years of time, were caused by us reading the Truth to Power manuscript? If this is what the light does to a mind, I'm glad I was never chosen. Ikora Rey to Arak Shalal. No, I don't think that's the right answer. Her spawning on Fundament was only one of her births. She says it herself. You have given birth to me 1,000 times. Look at Truth to Power simply. What are the topics it centers upon? Black holes, Vex simulations, Ahamkara manipulations of Hive Tribute, so our answer must involve all four of these. Ahamkara willingly seek destruction in order to be taken as trinkets by Guardians. You must know this. You've tried to exploit these trinkets as thoroughly as the other factions. But do you understand the metaphysics behind their desire? I do. I once wished to know more about Ahamkara. Wish granted. Ahamkara believe that by transforming themselves, by metamorphizing from monsters into treasures, they become more real, more important ontologically. It is the gap between reality as is and reality as desired that they feed on, Arak, and Guardians are the richest, finest source of reality as desired that they have ever met. What have Ahamkara artifacts ever done but instill delusions of grandeur, a solipsistic madness? I am more real than what surrounds me. Why is this? The skulls of Daira Ahamkara speak to me. They know I want to know the truth, and so they whisper to me of a path they climb. They call it the anathematic arc. They are going somewhere they consider more real. Guardians are part of how they get there. What if Savathun wants to go there too? So this is the moment at which this lore entry and all of the stuff they're talking about starts breaking the fourth wall. The reason for that is because the Skull of Daira Ahamkara is an exotic in Destiny that Warlocks can obtain. It is something that talks about this anathematic arc that the Ahamkara obtain, or wish to obtain, and it's not an arc that they take which brings them closer to the Guardian, it's an arc they take that brings them closer to us, the players. Yeah, this is where things start breaking the fourth wall and it starts talking about simulations and Ahamkara. So consider this, the Ahamkara consider themselves on a quest to become trinkets and weapons for Guardians because ultimately that makes them more real because they are then viewed by us, the player, used by us, the player, and then they obtain a higher level of existence in another universe, namely our universe. Even if they are just streamed data on our screens, they are more real that way. Which, if you think about it, is... wow, that's an incredible way to break the fourth wall. Arak Shalal and Ikora discuss this more as time goes on, but I want you to keep that idea in mind, this idea of individuals trying to break that fourth wall and escape into our reality. And I don't mean our reality as in us Guardians, I mean our reality as in you and me talking here in real life. Take a listen. Arak Shalal to Ikora Ray. If you say there is somewhere more real than here, you are implying that we are not real. This is the simulation argument, that we are ghosts in some other world's machine. Then there's no real stakes in our war for survival, because even if we are extinguished, we were never more than phantoms. I refuse to accept this. Ikora Ray to Arak Shalal. Oh, don't be so timid. An Arak of dead orbit driven to despair by the thought of other universes, when you should know the lore of Hubble volumes and Tegmark hierarchies by heart. Our existence is real to us, vitally real because it is ours. It's the only one we have. Even if we are simulations or imaginations, we have an inner life as rich as any real living thing, and so we are equally real. When we die, we are dead, dead, dead. We believe there are many timelines. Does that lead us to discount the reality of our own? Do we stop caring about ourselves, Ikora Ray and Arak Shalal, because in another timeline we are already dead? Do I punish you because in another timeline you murdered me? What matters to us is... us. But it is possible for realities to be concatenated. The Awoken Distributory is an infinite universe, but it exists within our universe. The Truth to Power documents constantly return to the question of black hole singularities, to their value as computers and as secret keepers. We are told our true purpose as Guardians is to hurl all we value into a black hole. We are told that Savathun wants to enter the Distributory and slaughter those within to gain power. The Pathria Good black hole cosmogenesis principle of Golden Age physics confirms that the interior of a black hole is a new universe. All black holes produce their own interior cosmos. All cosmos, including our own, are probably the interior of a black hole in a parent universe. The Truth to Power documents want it understood that Savathun wishes to enter the distributary in order to gain power in our parent universe. The suggestion here is that it is possible for actions in a concatenated universe to grant power in the parent universe. Uruk Shalal to Ikora Rey. What does this have to do with love letters to the human form? With confusion for the sake of confusion? You make no sense. Ikora Rey to Uruk Shalal. Savathun pretends to have a soft human body. She apologizes and empathizes. She asks for pity. She regrets emotional vulnerability. She is even funny. She makes a game for us to play. These are attempts to enter the mind of a human reader. Wherever she wants to go, it is a place with human minds. She needs to enter those minds to reach her destination. Uruk Shalal to Ikora Rey. Are you actually suggesting we are concatenated within the mind of a reader? Ikora Rey to Uruk Shalal. Wouldn't that be something? No, the answer here is simple, not complex, certainly not a twist from early postmodern writing. We surmise that what Savathun wants in the Dreaming City must have to do with Ahamkara, Vex simulations, black holes, her daughter Dulinkaru, and the manipulation of Hive Tribute. How can we relate these? At first, we believed Savathun wanted to use Ahamkara wishes to protect her daughter Dulinkaru, while Dulinkaru tried to find a way for Savathun to enter the distributary black hole in order to manipulate Hive Tribute. What if this is a misunderstanding? Why would the Dreaming City tell Savathun how to enter the distributary? The Awoken have never tried to return to their birthplace. They believe their exodus was irreversible. But what have the Awoken done instead? Passed from the distributary into our world. That knowledge is in the Dreaming City, the records of the Awoken hulls that carried Mara's people on their exodus. What Savathun wants in the Dreaming City is exactly that. Not the way into a child universe, but out into a parent where there are human minds waiting to receive her, formless as Imbaru, as the mist. So again, I'm going to jump in here, and for those of you who don't understand what's going on, don't worry. Let's put it this way. If you are reading this and you are looking at the lore, imagine for a second that Destiny's universe is as real as ours. I want you to imagine, say, what's a good analogy for this? A series of plates stacked one on top of another. I want you to imagine for a second that each plate is a universe. We are on, say, the top plate, we the players. The plate below that is the universe of Destiny, with all of its complexity. The one below that is something that can be found within a black hole within Destiny's universe, which is in other words a universe within a universe. Of course, that would make that particular distributary type universe, at the very bottom, a universe within our universe. Our universe is in our universe, the people watching this lore video, or in my case, voicing it. This is one of those moments at which you can suddenly see the layers of universes. Savathun is not trying to go down the layers to the bottom layer, where it is the universe within the universe within the universe. She's trying to ascend in some form into our universe. And that's where this gets really fascinating. You, by reading about Savathun, by reading about Ikora and Uruk Shalal, by listening to the words I'm speaking to you now, have made this universe real in your mind. The characters, even if you haven't got a particular attachment to them, have latched into your mind by the presence of their very names. And the concept of Imbaru that Savathun has begun to embody, or has tried to embody, is exactly what she has used in order to try and escape into our universe, to make herself more real. Savathun, in this instance in the Dreaming City, if Ikora is correct, was trying to ascend into our universe. Not our universe as in the Guardians, our universe as in us, the players. She knew that we were the parent universe to the universe of Destiny. Yeah, confusing, I know. Trust me, this is some of the wildest lore I've read in a while. But there's more to it. Take a listen to further text from Jalal and Ikora. Arak Jalal to Ikora Rey. How is anyone supposed to arrive at this by studying the Truth to Power text? Ikora Rey to Arak Jalal. Very easily. This is why I believe I'm right. This is the analogy our Guardian analysts failed to grasp. Look at the structure of the text. At first, Eris is real. Then we learn Eris's voice is a deception by Medusa. Then we learn Medusa is nested inside Korea. Then we learn Korea is a fiction of Dulin-Karu. And at the center, Savathun reveals herself to be the parent of it all. We are headed inward, as if moving from parent to child universe. Then we proceed in reverse. Savathun is revealed to be a fiction of Dulin-Karu, Dulin-Karu a simulation by Korea, and so on. So in the end, Truth to Power moves outwards, just as Savathun plans to move in from our universe and out to the distributory, or out from our universe to its parent. Arak Jalal to Ikora Rey. Oh, I see. A literary structure like that is called a chiasmus, and chiasmus means crossing point, like a wormhole or a portal. It was hidden in plain sight. But then we must act urgently to stop this. Savathun cannot be allowed to depart our universe into some reality superordinate to ours. But now you'll tell me, so what if she does? What can she do to us out there? Ikora Rey to Arak Jalal. It's all beside the point anyway. She may have already accomplished what she wanted. Some damn fool Guardian carried out her instructions on a dare. I don't know why she wanted a powerful Guardian to destroy her daughter in the ruins of Mara's throne, but she wanted it to happen, and I'm guessing the effects weren't felt here. I think she's got a glimpse into a world above our own, maybe even a kind of influence. Of course, Savathun is still with us. She walked among us as Osiris, she tricked us into removing her worm, she hasn't vanished into some higher reality. I do not think she built a wormhole into another universe and walked through it, although her intrigues with the Nine have focused on creating singularities from dark matter. She keeps a lot of irons in the fire, our Witch Queen. I think rather that she sent instructions on how to mantle her. I think the whole Truth to Power manuscript is an ova, a manual on how to behave like her, how to describe her through actions and thought so completely that you become her and thus give birth to her. It's done in the Books of Sorrow, to recall her from true death. It might be done again. So a part of her is out of the jar, slithering into that other world. Let's hope no one there has given birth to her yet. Hi Ikora, hi Jalal. Terribly sorry, but I've, in the process of making so many videos, given birth to Savathun 1,000 times, as have we all. Yeah, I hope you all understand that last bit, because it's probably the most fascinating thing about it all. The earlier part in that last message we read from Ikora to Jalal talks about some damn fool Guardian carrying out her instructions on a dare. This is a reference to Bagel 4K, a Guardian, a Destiny player, who actually followed the instructions within Truth to Power, instructions that read, in a fire team of 1, attain light level 999 and complete an instance of the Shattered Throne alone in order to unlock the true ending of the Dreaming City. They did this, and nothing happened, except for a lore entry on Bungie.net, which was corrupted by Savathun's code alongside DMG, at the time being congratulating them for completing their task. At least I think it was DMG, maybe it was Cosmo, or considering the timing, maybe it was Deej at this point. The larger point remains, the Witch Queen, in the process of all of this, in the process of us embodying her, in the process of the Imbaru created in all these acts, may have been mantled here in our universe. I myself have probably created a mantling of the Witch Queen. I've created Imbaru. I have, in a certain sense, manifested the Witch Queen here in our universe, just as all of us have by reading about her, or by reading Truth to Power, or by allowing her some kind of purchase within our mind should we read Truth to Power at all. All of this is really fascinating stuff, and it makes you think. There is a philosophical principle here. Just because it's not a universe we experience, does that make it any less real? It does make me wonder. Anyway, the dialogue between Ikora and Jalal is nearly complete. His final message to Ikora Rey reads as follows. Arak Jalal to Ikora Rey. Maybe you're the one who has it all backwards. The light is non-computable. It can't be simulated in conventional physics. That proves that any universe with the light cannot be a simulation. Our universe can contain simulations, but it cannot be one. Maybe this other world Savathun's touched is subordinate to ours after all. Maybe they are the ones who exist in our minds, a dream of a purely material world adrift in the true cosmos of light and dark. Poor frail dreams. The things she'd do to them. So now I have to wonder, and I have to ask you, who is truly the superordinate universe? Is it Destiny or is it us? If it is us, then all of a sudden Savathun has been released into us, and into our universe and into our lives, as Imbaru, as a concept through which she may be able to live on forever, as mist in our galaxies and our solar systems, in our minds and in our literature. But if we are not superordinate, if we are instead the child universe of Destiny, if we in fact exist in the minds of Arak Jalal and Ikora Rey and our Guardian and Savathun, if she has instead transported herself into a subordinate universe where she is even more powerful, God help us. Isn't that a wild idea? The idea that Savathun could transport herself all the way into another universe of thought thanks to this philosophical experiment and the lies contained within this one book. So tell me what you think. Are there parts to Truth to Power that we should trust? What do you think of Ikora's theory that Savathun is ascending or descending into different levels of reality? Is her existence in Destiny a case for invalidating her existence as a concept or character in our universe? Is the idea of a universe alongside another something that invalidates the existence of one of them? There's so much more that we don't quite know about Savathun, and there's so much more we don't know about Truth to Power. The entirety of this discussion has been opened up. It's quite the remarkable lore reading. But I leave it to you to discuss a little bit more. I think there is one thing we can talk about with a certain degree of certainty. The factions are still out there, and their story isn't quite yet over. Something we shall hopefully learn more about in time. But as per usual, know that your viewership is quite enough for me. I'm going to leave that video there because it has been incredibly long. Go ahead and hit subscribe, go ahead and leave your own thoughts down below in the comments section, and know that as per usual, your viewership has been quite enough for me. And that in the meantime, my name is Byf. Parodasya Arastra. I'll see you, Starside.